Shalom, shalom. First off, I would like to give all honor, all glory, and all praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone GMS who rule well and teach well, whose labors we've entered into. Shalom to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. And to all the Akim and Akwaf tuning in, may this lesson be edifying. This is the brother Halalyum from the Great Millstone branch of Chicago coming at you with another lesson in truth. And this lesson is going to be pertaining to, these Edomite billionaire capitalists, being afraid that these data centers could come under attack by Americans, and on the subject of, these Americans crashing out and trying to, and basically waging war against the powers that be, that have completely destroyed the natural way of life in favor of an artificial world. So as you can see here, from the AI overview, I typed in a statement that Larry Fink, the owner of BlackRock, made concerning the data centers. And it says, speaking at the Milken Institute Global Conference, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink addressed the severe strain massive AI data centers are placing on U.S. communities and power grids, noting that public disapproval over heavy resource usage is growing. He emphasized that securing this multi-billion-dollar infrastructure is a primary concern. So hey, these Edomites don't care about, these Edomite billionaire capitalists, they don't care about the damage that these data centers are doing, to you Babylonians, man. These data centers, these servers that contain all kinds of digital information that's draining water, as well as polluting the air. But let's actually go to the video on Twitter. And hold on. I don't actually got a page on Twitter. Hold on, let me see if they'll let me watch it as a guest. Let's see. Okay, it won't let me go on X, but like I was saying, these data centers are causing a lot of problems, in America, especially pertaining to, draining the water supply. Before I made this lesson, I was doing research on it. I watched a documentary and it said that these data centers can drain, enough water, can basically drain, the water and the power of the entire of an entire city. And now these Edomites, they're in fear that people are gonna rise up and attack these different data centers and all these places. But going to the scriptures, let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter 24 and 3. And it says, the land, matter of fact, let me go verse 4. It says, the earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. So, hey, the earth, the world is languishing. Matter of fact, let me go to the blue letter so that I can go to the Hebrew word and decipher what it means. But the word languisheth is the Hebrew word amal, and it says to be weak, to droop, to languish. Right. In the book of in the Apocrypha, in the book of Second Ezra, it said that the world will become weaker through age. And one of the main contributing factors to that is the fact that the wicked is in rulership. And the fact that these billionaire capitalists, that invest in these food companies and data centers have poisoned the food supply, as well as creating these data centers that are polluting the air and dramatically increasing energy bills for American citizens, for the working class, as well as releasing these chemicals and releasing these noises and frequencies that can cause, actual cardiovascular diseases. You can look all this stuff up, man. Verse 5, it says, the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Right, the earth is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. And like the scripture said in Job 9:24, it says, what the earth is given into the hands of the wicked, he covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, wherein who is he? So who is the earth defiled under the hands of? Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, beginning with the billionaire elite bankers and the billionaire capitalists that have completely destroyed the earth, and have destroyed the natural way of life that has sustained, the human race as a whole for so long. Now the Esau's in rulership, man, the food is fake. The water is polluted. All the food we eat is mainly being served in plastic containers, man. The water is so polluted. You got whales and fish, swimming on the shore and just laying there, man. Basically committing suicide because of how polluted the water is, man. To the point where the whales and the animals just say, hey, you know what, fuck it. And they just swim to the shore and lay there. That is how polluted this earth has become under the hands of the wicked, man. Because when the wicked is in rulership, this is Proverbs 29:2. It says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. And that's what people are doing right now. And it's way more than just the data centers. People are mourning because of the inflation, the rising cost of food, and oil and gas. Gas going up 50 cents in the span of 2 days. The economic instability of this nation, of Babylon the Great, which is America. And what will that eventually lead to? That's going to lead to people crashing out, man. Because in conditions like this, people can only keep their composure for so long, until they eventually crash out, man. Once a person no longer has a comfortable access to money, to food, the essential things of life that sustains a person, especially if they got kids, what do you think these people are going to do? They're going to go to the streets, man. They're going to invade, these different monuments where these rich people stay at. The houses where these people live. And in the past few weeks and months, there's been not a major surge, but there's been a uprising in people, going after these billionaires and these politicians, man. All these assassination attempts. Why? Because the people are angry. The people are in a state of mourning because the wicked is in rulership. And they're destroying everything around them, man. Let's go to the book of, matter of fact, I want to actually read the cons, of these data centers so I can give people, an insight to how, disastrous this really is. But it says, number one, massive energy consumption. We went into that already. It says large facilities consume huge amounts of electricity for servers, cooling systems, and networking equipment. Then, Salaki. Number two, water usage. But I want to go down, let's see. Yeah, right here it says more realistic health concerns concerning these data centers. It says noise pollution. Constant cooling fans and backup systems can create long-term noise exposure. Chronic noise pollution may contribute to stress, sleep disruption, headaches, elevated blood pressure, anxiety, or irritability. So it's messing up, the mental state of these Americans, man. It says air pollution from backup generators, Many data centers use large diesel generators for emergencies that can release nitrogen oxides, fine particulate matter. No, Salaki, particulate matter, and it says exhaust pollutants. Long-term exposure to polluted air in industrial areas can affect the lungs, heart health, or asthma risk. Right, the respiratory system. The organs that are responsible for people, breathing. These things are destroying the respiratory systems of humans, man. On top of the poison food, in the polluted water that we drink. Now we got to deal with these massive data centers, completely draining the water, and making the energy bills increase for the working class, man. But let's go to the book of 2nd Ezra. This is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 15 and 14, and it says, "Woe to the world." Excuse the lawnmower outside. 2nd Ezra 15 and 14, it says, "Woe to the world and to them that dwell therein, for the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands." So there's going to be, political and racial and class division between people. You're going to have, of course, you're going to have the war between Jacob and Esau. That war has been raging on since before our forefather Jacob even came out of the womb. So you're going to have racial division, but you're also going to have division between different classes. The rich versus the poor. And the poor working class are going to go after, the Edomite elite billionaire capitalists. But due to them having, these luxurious bunkers to hide in, these elite Edomites, according to prophecy, many of them are going to hide, underground, while these people are on the surface killing each other, destroying one another because of like I'm going to read. It says, "For the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men." And the word sedition, I'll get in the etymology. The word sedition, it says, rebellion, uprising, revolt, a factitious commotion in state, concerted attempt to overthrow civil authority, violent strife between factions, civil or religious disorder. Right, violent strife between different factions. Rebellion and uprising against the powers that be, against the elite. Verse 16, "For there should be sedition among men, and invading one another. They should not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power." And in this modern world, who do the kings and princes represent? They represent what? The politicians, the president, the vice president. But regarding America, who's really in control? The billionaire elite bankers and the billionaire capitalists. Different corporations that influence politicians through their lobbyists. So these Americans are going to rebel, and they're going to wage war against the elite and go after them in an attempt to overthrow them, to reclaim Babylon the Great, which we know according to prophecy, Babylon the Great is going to be destroyed, according to the book of Revelation. So I ended off with Revelation chapter 11 and 18, and it says, "And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time with the dead that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth." And who is the main group of people destroying the earth? You Edomites. Beginning with the top elites, man. They are the ones that have completely destroyed the natural order of the earth that Yahweh Bashim Shai set up. Therefore, at the appointed time, Yahweh Shai will be sent down here to violently take them out of power. so that the earth can finally be at rest, man. So, I hope this lesson was edifying. I want to give all honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. Kwame Sha'Allah, Wa Abal Babal. See you in the next lesson, Lord's willing.